All right, Tim Blankenship here with divorce661.com. We are a full-service divorce legal document preparation firm serving all courts in California. If you're looking for a full-service solution to handle your case anywhere in California and you're amicable, look us up, divorce661.com. Today we're talking about how to prepare your judgment when there's no assets, no debts, no kids, no nothing. You're just doing the dissolution of marriage. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to assume you've already filed and did your disclosures and had all those preliminary documents completed. And we're talking about just the judgments forms here in this video. So let's get started. We're going to mark dissolution. We're going to mark that's a default or uncontested. That's the kind of case we're talking about, default with agreement. The respondent was served with process. So this would be the date that they were either served personally or signed a notice and acknowledgement. You're going to put that date in there. Then you're going to mark box 4A. And by the way, this is for LA County only. I'm going to make specific videos for each county and all the various ways that this can be done. You're going to mark here number 4A, and you're going to mark number 1 on a specific date. For LA County, you're going to leave this box blank. The court's going to fill this in. This is all for legal separation, other things. We don't need to worry about that. There's no kids in this particular case. Name of the parties on the lines here. This is children, child custody, child support. We're not dealing with that in this video. Spouse support, we're saying no spousal support. Jurisdiction's terminated. It means no spouse support to either party. As set forth in the attachment 343, which we'll be going over. And even though there's no property, we still have to attach a property order. I think a lot of people make that mistake. Okay, this is your face page. This is not your settlement agreement. Treat this as a cover sheet. Some people try and just turn this in as their judgment because it says judgment, but you have to attach these forms. And I'm going fast for you folks. You can always pause, rewind, and whatnot, but I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to. The next form I'm going to cover is the 343 because that's the type of attachment it is. Let me move this over here. This would be the order that you would file this judgment, 180, 343, 345, because those are the attachments in the order that they have here on the 180. Going to the 343, so we're talking about no spouse support in this order. And so we're going to mark this as an attachment to the 180. The parties stipulate, just means agree. You don't have to worry about any of this. That's what's great about these forms. It looks complicated, but it's not. Page 2, you're going to mark the court terminates jurisdiction over the issue of spouse support for petitioner and respondent. That's it. Don't have to worry about any of this because there's no spouse support. Number 3, you don't have to worry about any of this as well. That is done. All right. 345, property order. Again, no property, but you still need to attach the property order. You can't just leave it blank. So you're going to just mark there are no community property assets or debts for either party. There's no community assets. There's no community debts. That's it. You don't have to fill out anything in here because there is no property. Look for another video on how we talk about listing property. For the, so no property for assets or debts, community or separate. Then for separate, we're just going to mark the box here and we're going to put none. And for respondent, none. That's it. This is your judgment. It's also known as your settlement agreement, stipulated judgment. It has all kinds of names, but that is considered your judgment. The 180, 343, 345. And then all I recommend you do, you need a place to sign and you just need to create a document that kind of looks like this. And this will go behind the 345. Just a place that says, hey, this is the judgment attachment, approved form and content, name of petitioner, response, sign, and it gives a place for the judge to sign. Because as you'll notice, there's no place for anybody to sign the settlement agreement. And on a default with agreement, you need to have that notarized. Don't forget that. So that is your judgment. Now there's procedural documents that you'll need. You're going to need your 144 stipulation and waiver or final declaration disclosure. You already did your preliminaries on the 141s, if you remember. And so you're going to waive your finals because they're not mandatory. Simple form. There's nothing to fill out. You just date and sign this. Because this is a default case, if you haven't already filed your request in your default, I always turn in our cases with the default, with the judgment package. You don't need this. You don't need to refile it if you already have turned it in. But if you haven't, you're going to mark is not attached, is not attached. You're going to put the dates and the petitioner's name, and there's 4 signatures. People miss this a lot. So date and name and sign. You're going to mark that a copy has been mailed to the request in our default has been sent to the respondent. You're going to put their name and address in here. Again, date, name, sign. Page 2, you're going to mark costs and distribution, costs and disbursements are waived. Nothing else is mandatory here. Date, name, sign. And then in most cases, you're going to say I'm in regular communication with the respondent and know that they are not in the U.S. military service. Again, date, print, and sign. That form is done. 170, you're going to mark dissolution. You're going to mark everything in the petition is true and correct. You're going to mark default with agreement. You're going to mark this matter is proceeding by default. You're going to, so this is kids support, don't need it. Spouse support, you're going to mark. I ask the court to terminate spouse support for petitioner and respondent based on a written agreement. And you're going to say, Tim, what is the written agreement? What are you talking about? The written agreement is right here, the 343, 345, and 180, where we said to terminate spouse support. That's it on this form. This form is done. Date, name, sign. 190 is your notice of entry of judgment. All you need to do on this form is add dissolution and then names and address for both parties on here. That is it, folks, for a default with agreement, no assets, no debts, no kids. This is the entire judgment package. That's all it takes to get your judgment. We did this under, how much time is on the clock? Under 7 minutes, and your judgment is done. I know it's going to take you longer to do it yourself. If you want help with your divorce, I'd be happy to take over your case at any point. This judgment package, by the way, you're going to want to turn all of this in at one time. The 180, 343, 345, and that signature page that I showed you right here, bring it in again. That's all going to be stapled together in that order. 180, 343, 345 signature page. And then you're going to have your original and copies of that. And then all those other documents I talked about, the 144, 165, 170, 190, those all are independent standalone forms. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to be doing this on all the different variations. So if there's assets and debts and no kids, or assets and debts and kids and spouse support, or any variation of that, I'm going to do that for each of the counties, and I'm going to do that for all the variations as well. We'll see you on the next video.